Hey friends, Mr. Spitzer here, and we are now on Fantasy Writing Day 4. So, you've done a great job so far. We've established writing about our setting, talking about fantasy elements within our writing, and we've also written a little bit about characters in our story. So, now our focus is on creating a message or a theme within our story. Now, throughout the year, we've practiced identifying and inferring messages or themes from someone else's story, and now it's our turn to make sure that we include a message or a lesson that our characters can learn in a story. And I'm going to show you some resources and supports to help you do that. So we're in my Google Classroom. We're on the assignment. If you're watching this video, that means you're already doing the first part. You're watching the lesson for today, and I have my example person here. I went into Google Documents and I brought out my Writing Remote Learning digital notebook. As I said before, we are on lesson 4, which is about building your story with a message. So, as always, the first thing you want to do is answer the do now question after filling out the heading. And our do now question today says, what are some important themes or lessons that you learned from your favorite fantasy books and movies? So I'm going to repeat that again. What are some lessons or themes that you've learned from your favorite fantasy books or movies? I'm thinking like, what have you learned from Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, those kind of things. Once you've answered that, we're going to go down, and it says our teaching point today is that some of the most powerful stories have a message in them. Often, writers can think of the message of their story first and develop what happens around that message. So I hope you're following along with this because our graphic organizer today is a little bit different and trickier than usual, but we have some great supports to help you. So this first link says click here for an example with supports. So I clicked on that link and it brought me to this page here, and you can see this whole graphic organizer is filled out really nicely. It looks awesome, and I'm going to read this in just a second. I want to see what I need to do next. So as I scroll down, you can see here, this is our graphic organizer. There are several different boxes you need to fill in, so I'm going to talk about each of these before we look at our support page. The first one is the message. That's what we're working on today, is coming up with a lesson that your reader can learn from reading your story. Next box here says the setting where your story takes place, the characters, which hopefully you've already brainstormed some of your characters and the traits that they have. Fantasy elements is what makes your story a fantasy story. So what magical elements or people or creatures are in your story to make it fantasy. And then last one is the plot, the actions that will happen in your story. So we're going to go to our example, our model right here, and I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. So here, this is your message. And a message is like the lesson you learn or a theme that is told within your story. Now, I said here, click here for message ideas. So if you click this link here, I've already brainstormed tons of common themes and messages found in fantasy stories. So I'm just going to read a few of these. You can use this as a support to help you. These are very basic and common lessons or messages that you may use for your story. You may choose one and change it to fit your story, but be creative and think, how can I show this message to my reader through the character's actions and plot? So again, although you can choose one of these, make sure it fits with your story. Make sure that message can be shown in your story and it's not just a random lesson. So the first one says, respect and accept others' differences and beliefs. Another example could be that you should always fight for what you believe in. The next says, find clever ways to solve your problems. The following one says, never turn your back on your friends. Be generous and considerate to others. It is always best to tell the truth. Help others that are less fortunate than you. So again, you can see how these are typical lessons that you could possibly learn. And through reading your story, you should be able to come up with a lesson that your reader could learn. So consider how or what your character could do to show one of these lessons. And I know some of you have already been brainstorming those things. So I'm going to come back here to my example, and it says here, setting. Where does your story take place? How does the environment your character is in force your character into action? So if your setting is somewhere in the wilderness and is very cold, it's going to force your character in action by making them wear warmer clothes or maybe starting a fire. So think about where you're setting, where your story is taking place, and how that affects your character. The next one says your character. How does your character's traits and actions help to show your message? I linked right in here for you again, a document with tons of character traits word bank, different words and synonyms for nice, mean, sad, and positive and negative traits. So if you need help developing a character with both positive and negative traits, click on that link. It says if your message is about being brave and standing up for what you believe, your character's actions and traits should show that theme. So make sure everything is consistent. Next box is fantasy elements. Those are common things that you would find that make your story a fantasy story. So I included some words including magic, dragons, wizards, wands, monsters, dungeons, castles. These are all things that you would find within a normal fantasy story. And the last thing, it says think of a story mountain. How will your story go? So think about the events and actions that happen and what order they will happen in your story. So use this as a support to help you. Again, you also have this chart that shows common themes and messages in your story if you're having trouble getting started. I'm going to jump back here to my graphic organizer, and this is what you're actually going to fill out for the day. So I've kind of given you an example, a model, and I talk through what goes in each box. The next thing is, how do you actually write in this? So by clicking right in this is actually a drawing. It was embedded in here. So what you'll need to do is when you double click on that image, it will bring up this drawing page. All you need to do is click in each box and it will allow you to type. So as you can see, I double clicked on the box that said setting, and I could say, my story takes place in New Jersey. It is a cool summer day with a light breeze. So again, you can just type in right here. When you're done with filling in that box, you click Save and Close, and you can see your graphic organizer is updated. It's a little different than normal. Usually you can just click in here, but because this is a diagram, it's easier to just edit that way. If you need any help with that, please join my office hours. I would gladly help people fill this in. If you have really great ideas and you just can't get the document to work, I can also help you type it in if you join my office hours. The last thing, and I realize that some people forget to do this, and this is one of the most important parts because this is putting all the information we've gathered and collected in our writing process, and this is seeing if you're able to do it. So the directions here say, in your entry below, write about the message you chose for your story. Again, up here, your message is going to be posted right here. So you're going to write about the message you chose. Why did you choose this message? What do you want your reader to learn? So if you take a look, there's 2 questions in here. Make sure you answer both of these. Why did you choose the message you chose? And what do you want your reader to learn? After completing that, you are at the end of the lesson and you are done for the day. Again, we're starting to put all of the different unit lessons together in creating our story. We've developed the setting, we've talked about characters and fantasy elements, and now we're choosing a message for our story to help put our story together. If you need help, have any questions, or just want to talk, please join my office hours. I host them every day from 10 to 11, and I look forward to reading everyone's fantasy stories. Bye.